video is sponsored by STS Footwear. Footwear of the fans, by the fans, for the fans. Get your own Gator sneakers at stsfootwear.com and use the code GTFans for $15 off at checkout.
Okay, recruiting with the early signing today, really excited. We had 21 guys sign. With the early signing period, covered really, if you look at it, covered depth across the board within the position. I think our coaching staff, both our recruiting staff and our coaching staff did a great job getting players. Had players from, not just, a lot of players from the state of Florida, which is really important to me in this program, but a lot of players from around the nation and actually, this year around the world. Because I think we had the first signee of this year, right? Did no one beat us? Right? Jeremy was the first one to sign this year yesterday at our local time here at 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon, 7 a.m., legally his time on Wednesday morning. But real excited, good guys. You look at it, not a lot of shocks, not a lot of surprises. But I think that goes to the character of the players that we recruit. And the job, the relationship our coaches form with these guys, and how they work. And the guys and a lot of the players looking and knowing why they want to come to Florida and be part of the Florida football program. You know that you're looking at the school, obviously that's not just the premier athletic school in the state, but the premier academic school in the state, and a school that is not just one of the top 10 football programs in the country, but the only one of those schools that's also a top 10 academic school. So when you look at what players are looking for, obviously, those it's a great draw, and you see that by the quality of the student athletes that we have coming in to play for us. So. Questions?
Is there any disappointment that you didn't get a running back in this class? I know you're
no, because recruiting's not over. This is just the early signing period. We got 6 weeks from now we do it all again. There's still, we already have a bunch of official visits already set for guys in January that we had set, early, that had been set for quite a while. So, it's hard to say with the totality of the class because it's just kind of the first part of it done. Which one? Yeah. I think what you're looking at is it's kind of becoming the trend probably. You look probably 80% of your class signs early, maybe more. But but also that's what it was for. You look at all the guys that were committed, and I bet 80 to 85% of guys were already committed before today. Those guys just signed, and the guys that weren't go into the next signing period.
Edgar, we have ASAP quotes, so make sure you guys get the microphone so that ASAP can do that.
What areas were you especially pleased with? It looks like the front seven, secondary really got bolstered.
I think that was really huge for us. You look, obviously, you got to be great up at the line of scrimmage. I think this a second straight year. I think we've addressed the future with our offensive line, which I'm happy with. How we're building that for the future. Defensive line, obviously, we've been, the last couple of years, it hasn't been great, and we've made some changes on our recruiting and our coaching staff to address that. And I think you see that with the success we have with some of the D-line that we've recruited this year. And really excited about, those guys. You want to be a great team. You want to compete for championships. You got to be able to control the line of scrimmage. And, if you look at, and then the depth we're trying to bring in the secondary, it'll be the second straight year we're losing guys early to the NFL. Within the secondary, you've had a little bit of attrition. You've also dealt with some significant injuries, some career-ending injuries, and it was a position we were short on last year. And, when you take that and with attrition, with injuries, with everything, there's going to be an opportunity for a lot of these guys to come in and play right away and get on the field right away. So really excited about the DBs in this class.
You said there's still more recruiting to do. And even then, is that no longer the finish line anymore because of transfer portal and all this stuff?
Yeah,
that happens more.
I think that's something that comes in, is now the transfer. There's going to be, not just are we looking also at high school signees, but you're looking at transfers coming in. As well, to kind of to fill the different gaps moving forward. So, we expect to, this certainly I don't expect to be the end of this recruiting class or new Gators, if you will, coming in here for us. So, I still think there's going to be some more coming.
Will, over here to the right.
Hey Dan, you still are losing the 4 wide receivers
Mhm.
as seniors. Are you looking for like more additional high school talent there, or is that an area where you could go with a transfer portal for?
Well, possibly, but I think it's a position that we're looking at the balance of the roster. We knew that this was going to come, so we were heavy. We oversigned, So as you balance a roster, we were +1 at the receiver position. This season, and how we balance our roster out, and so we lose. So you really lose 4, but off the roster depth, you're down 3, and we signed 2, so we got there's still another spot that we'd look to address with that moving forward.
And Jordan Pouncey,
Yep.
is he eligible for this upcoming season?
We're gonna file the waiver to try to get him eligible for this season. So we hopefully that goes through for us. For him, more than me, it's more about the right. I mean, it's about the student athlete, so we'll be okay. And but hopefully NCAA does what's right for the student athlete.
And you mentioned the D-line recruiting. You had shifted your staff around. I know some of that was just Sal leaving. What were some of the other changes?
Well, I mean, obviously bringing David Turner in was a big part of that to me. You know what I mean? That we wanted to get a guy like David Turner here, and you see the success we've had recruiting with him here, and what he's been able to do for us. And I think that was something to me that getting a guy that's coaching the D-line that does a great job recruiting and building the character of those guys and building the relationship to get those guys. So, obviously David was a huge part for me to get him in here. And we did readjust part of our recruiting department, but I think David really making the change to get David here was a big deal.
You're pretty comfortable with how the staff's set up now in terms of recruiting?
Yeah, you're always. I do think our recruiting department, our coaching staff. I think we got a great coaching staff, but I think we tweaked in how we tweaked every aspect of our recruiting department, not just personnel, but just how the whole thing was set up and being run. And I am pleased with the job they did, and I think they did a great job, and I think we got it kind of headed in the direction we want.
Dan, you've got 3 quarterbacks now. You've got 4 running backs and 9 receivers, count what you signed. Is the depth at those 3 spots what you want and need, or do you need to address that a little bit more?
Yeah, that was a lot of math right there for me. I haven't slept much recently. Our depth, I think our depth across the board, we're getting there, but you're always concerned about depth. One of the things we look at as you go into recruiting, not just where you are right now, but where you are long term in the future. I still think we're getting there to go build the depth across the board that you need. But I think we're certainly headed in the right direction. After this recruiting class comes in and moving into the future, I'm going to feel a little bit more comfortable on our consistent depth from one year to the next.
For example, at wide receiver, you've got, with what you've signed now, you'll have 9. What is your ideal number for
10.
your offense to have?
10.
10? Okay.
That's what we have slotted. We do kind of like, it's like a salary cap, or like if you're working in the NFL with your roster and all of what positions you have and all that. There's a lot of numbers we balance. You got the 25-85 number that you have to balance, how you're splitting up your 25 and 85, and how do you keep that balanced across the board, where you potentially need to oversign at different positions from one year to balance out if you're top heavy or, and then you throw in the curveball now, the transfer portal and guys leaving early for the NFL draft. You're always trying to balance it, but we kind of have set numbers we like to be at every position. And then there's always fluctuation with that, like quarterback, you like to be at 4, looks like we'll probably be at 3. But you just that there's always some fluctuating numbers in there.
You mentioned the depth. I think I'm on. You mentioned the depth, so let me kind of follow up on that. You've been a part of championships here, so you know what it takes with the roster and everything. After today, knowing that things are still going to happen, how close do you feel like you guys are to having a championship caliber roster?
Well, we're certainly getting there. I don't know. It's hard to with guys. None of these guys have even had college practice, so it's hard to say about the guys we signed today how that affects things. We'll see how they develop. I'm back to my press conference 13 years ago with my first recruiting class. Said, "What do you think about the class?" I'd come check with me in 2 to 3 years, and we'll see how they did. And we'll see if it was a good class or not. But I do. I certainly think we expect to go compete for championships, and we're building the roster to go be able to go do that, and we want to do that on a consistent basis, not just one year to the next. So I think we're building the program that is, we're going to our second straight New Year's Six game. We have the opportunity to finish 2 straight top 10 seasons. So we're not very far off. We're not quite there yet, but we're not very far off. I think, and a lot of it in championship teams, you want to win a championship. There's a little bit of, you got to, I don't want to say luck because you kind of create your own luck, but there are things that happen, throughout the course of a season, injuries and, and all of that stuff. Did you avoid major injury bugs during the course of the year? And, I think that's such a huge factor, and obviously scheduling can roll into it, So, I think those are also factors. But I think the fact we have the opportunity to finish with our second straight top 10 season certainly would point that, to my mind, that we're headed in the right direction to start being right there to compete for championships.
And you guys signed more top prospects from Florida than any other team in the country. Just how key is that to be able to kind of put a fence around the state?
That's good. We should. I'd be disappointed if we didn't. We are the University of Florida. And this is where guys. I hope most kids in the state of Florida grew up wanting to be Gators. And watching it and wanted the opportunity to go play in the swamp and to go do that. I know recruiting's become a lot more national now and international even. But but a lot of your foundation's going to come from within the 5-6 hour radius of school, and especially within your home state. So it's great that we did that. I'm not as caught up maybe in all the rankings as everybody else. I know how I rank players, so I don't always share my rankings, but I will say this: my rankings are probably different than other people's.
You led me just right into my next question. You've recruited a lot of defensive linemen through the years. Can you count on maybe one hand how many defensive tackles you've recruited that had over 100 tackles in one season?
I have no idea. I never looked at the stats of that stuff, but I've recruited a lot of really good ones. Who had 100? Javon? Yeah, he's a really good player. Has size and athleticism. There's not many people. He walks in a room, you can say this guy's, been blessed with certain athletic skills. But it reminds me a lot of Chris Jones. Reminds me a lot of Chris Jones, who I had at Mississippi State. But I hate comparing guys to each other, trying to see how they go work. But as a physical, just like tall, long, and really athletic. So Chris probably, I don't know if he reads there. I couldn't tell you how many tackles he had, so he might get mad at you and say I had 100 too. So.
Yeah, just what was the day like in general? Last year you said it was a whirlwind. Today
that always is.
Was
So I don't know. You're on the phone talking to everybody. Meetings late last night. Then you get in early this morning. So that the faxes now. I don't know that we got a fax today. We may finally put the fax machine business right. Fax machine industry out of business. Everybody did it kind of on their phones. So you're just in early this morning, then you're handling all recruiting. You're kind of combining that with getting ready for practice, with staff meetings, organizing that, watching the practice film, doing today's install for practice, racing out onto the field, having the practice. Here with y'all. Go down, we'll watch the practice film tonight, then we'll go work on the red zone game plan after that till late tonight, and go home, sleep quick, and get to work tomorrow morning.
I'm more just comment the emotions of the signing day.
Yeah.
Is it exciting? Is it like nervous? You nervous all day?
It's always nerve-wracking, and it's kind of exciting, and a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun as you see, a lot of guys getting the opportunity to go live their dreams, that they're getting to go play major college football. getting to come to the University of Florida. I mean, I think that's special. So, to be part of that, that's a lot of the excitement of it all, of getting to see these guys fulfill and go live their dreams. There's always the nervous part of it, and today seemed to be kind of an uneventful day for us. And what happened, so that was good. So we didn't have any bad nervous things happen. Everybody's really solid. I mean, most guys just got their stuff in, and so it wasn't as drama filled maybe as you sometimes have.
Does you mentioned Dexter, but is there another guy? All these guys are gifted, obviously, athletes. But is there one or two maybe athletic freaks in the group that maybe we're not aware of?
Probably 21 of them. I mean, you don't get here without being a special athlete. And so, I think that's what's really, really exciting about these guys. I mean, of what we've seen and through we trust our evaluation that they are. I mean, I've only got to see 3 of them actually practice so far, and those 3 have done a heck of a job. Anthony is. Got size, speed, athleticism, really quick release, really smart football person, a lot of football IQ, and just even out there, just how comfortable he is picking things up. And Richie and Josh on the O-line, which, I like. I mean, they came right in. They're ready to buckle it up and go get after it, which is kind of the mentality you want. I mean, they're kind of swimming out there. We just threw them right in, and they got to go. But they, what? I mean, it wasn't. There's no hesitation, no nervousness. They're ready to go buckle it up and go knock somebody off the ball. So they have that right attitude. Plus, they have size and athleticism, which is pretty good too.
Dan, back to a guy from last year, Wardrick Wilson. Is there any resolution there, or where is he at right now?
Here's my issue. I don't know that I can comment on where he is because of his recruiting status. Is that fair? Yeah. I know a lot. There's a lot going on that I could sit here and talk a lot of time about, but I don't think I'm allowed to comment on it just with where his status is.
Is there a chance he'll end up here, though? Or still?
I can't even comment on that.
You were talking about the wide receiver numbers, but there's a possibility you could lose 2 more with Kadarius and Trayvon potentially leaving early. Have you had discussions with them? Or are they guys that are waiting for?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, we've had discussions with everybody. I mean, CJ, I don't expect anybody else to declare, but you never know at this point.
And then how do you find a punter in Australia? Did you go to Australia? Did he come here?
Did I go to Australia? No. I was about to ship. We did it in the recruiting meeting. I put it up on the board, and I had we put up the schedule. So I was like at Brian Johnson. I'm wrote up on the board, depart for Australia at this time, return 5 days later or something. They have great kicking academies there, and so one of the things you work with the people there. They get all the film, they get all the work. You do the work and the film study of what the guys are, and you evaluate it like you evaluate all the other the positions. Hard one, you don't get to do it in person, so you got to really pay a lot of it and kind of go in depth into extra film study on guys.
Who's the coach on staff that I guess you guys lean to when it comes to punting and kicking?
Well, Greg Knox, our special teams coordinator.
Last year's class, you lost some guys. Obviously, it didn't end up being as good as you hoped it would be. Do you feel better about the guys you're bringing in this year in terms of not only academics but some other things?
Check with me in a couple of years. I don't know. We'll see how last year's class. We'll have to see how last year's class turned out. You know what I mean? There's some. I think there's a lot of special guys in last year's class but we'll see. They still got some development to do, and same with this year. You know what I mean? I think it's usually 2 to 3 years before you know. I always go back to I remember probably maybe 2010 or 2011 had a signing day, and everyone's like, "Oh goodness, boy, this will be the end of the program. The terrible players here, Dak Prescott. No one's ever heard of this kid as a quarterback. I don't even know if he can play." And Josh Robinson and Preston Smith and it's NFL players, star, not highly rated guys, but turned out to be really good players in the end. So we'll see that down the road how it all turns out. Because I think honestly, probably the top recruit in that class or top 2 recruits in that class, according to the rankings, never panned out or played. guys that people didn't think for a lot of, I guess, in the rankings turned out to be superstars. So we'll see how it all turns out.
But do you feel like these two classes now, your first two full classes where you've had full recruiting cycles, could be the basis for something really special down
Well, I think for us here, I think you know when you want to compete, you want to be, to me it's not just something special, it's building consistency within the program and competing every single year at an extremely high level. So I think everything that these guys are building that foundation for us to be consistent winners. But we had, there were really good players when we got here too, and those guys have bought in, and since we've been here, we've started to build that consistency of winning, and we just want to bring guys in that are going to continue to do that and continue to win at an extremely high level.
The receivers you signed last year and redshirted, where are they at in their development, and how much do you expect them to help you out next
They're
season?
doing really, really well in their development, and I'm really excited about the futures that all three of them have. I think they got a chance to be really special players. So it was good to have a couple developmental practices for them, and I'm really excited to see the steps that they take heading into spring ball.
Anthony Richardson, how unique was it to kind of see his development from a sophomore when he was a skinny kid to where he ended up as a senior? And was it a unique situation also to be able to have him in Gainesville and just so close to your program?
It was. It's sometimes tricky because this is really, very, very comfortable for guys. I think one of the hard things in recruiting, you can get really comfortable with a situation and then like, hey, I could go take a trip somewhere else and it's all shiny, new, and exciting because it's just not comfortable. Everything's really shiny, new, and exciting here too. It's just I'm really comfortable and I see it all the time. So I'm really happy that didn't become the case with him, and he was here and wanted to stay home and obviously come play for the University of Florida. So, but it is unique. Hey, when you sit there and you say, okay, we're scouring the nation for the top quarterback, and he's sitting right here in Gainesville, Florida. That's a pretty, it's a pretty good deal. Made cut down on travel expenses in recruiting.
Dan.
Yeah, could have gone to Australia.
Dan, this is like the third year of the early signing period. How has that evolved in as far as your planning and so forth like that? Do you think you've kind of worked the kinks out of that to get it down to?
I think it just is what it is now. I think everybody kind of sees what it is, and I think it's been pretty consistent, to be honest with you, over the last 3 years. So that's kind of the norm of what it is. I bet, right? I think you're going to look at it, about 80% of the guys are going to sign early within the early signing. 20% will sign on the second signing day. I think I'm guessing that'll be pretty consistent across the board. It has been the last 2 years. I imagine it'll be similar this year.
You have a bunch of guys that kind of committed and didn't take any other visits and were just solid, and that's not maybe what happens all across the board. Is that something that you guys talk to them about, being solid in their commitment before they make it, or just kind of the kids?
Yeah, you talk about what commitment means. I think that's a big deal for guys. But I also think, if guys know, you have the opportunity to come to the University of Florida, right? There's only one school in America that's top 10 in football and top 10 academics. So probably like, hey, I got the chance to go here. I'm good. I'm pretty excited about that opportunity. I don't need to even look at other things. So, but that's pretty big positive for us.
Coach, you talked a little bit about Coach Turner and what he landed, I guess, helped land this class. What makes him a good recruiter?
Well, I think one thing, his sincerity and how the type of person he is. I think when guys come and see him, the relationship he builds with the players, they get to see the relationship not just he builds during recruiting, the relationship he has with our guys, and his ability to not just coach you as a football coach and coach you on the field, his ability to mentor you off the field. You know what I mean? And when you go ask people and you go around and you go ask a Fletcher Cox, go ask a Chris Jones, go ask a Jeffrey Simmons, and you're talking about all NFL superstars. This is the guy you want to go play for. He's going to develop you and help you become successful.
And then heading into the February signing, how does the recruiting change as a group? Do y'all circle? Is it like circling the wagons and say we really got to get a running back?
It's just less numbers to deal with, which is good. We don't have as many scholarships You're not recruiting as many people, and you're kind of really jump-starting into the next class. It's kind of accelerated recruiting a little bit, now, because now you're less than a year away from signing day for the 21 class. So, a lot of the focus is pay attention. We're going to go recruit, but since the numbers are a whole lot smaller of everybody we're dealing with, a lot of my focus now will turn to the 21 class because, you're honestly, we'll probably be looking at recruiting 5 or 6 kids coming into the next signing day, instead of, the potential, starting in this recruiting period, you're recruiting like 40, to see who you have a chance to get and trying to get different guys. Now you're down to a handful, so that's easier to manage. So your focus a little bit changes also to the 21 class.
But in terms of maybe needing a running back or wanting a running back specifically in a class, do you tag team that more? Just given the amount of time in the list.
No, I mean you kind of already know who you're recruiting. We're gonna keep recruiting those guys the same way we've been recruiting them all along.
Hey, Dan, you took a couple of guys who actually missed their junior years on the field.
Mm-hmm.
What goes into the risk of doing that, the evaluation of doing that, because they don't have as much film as say another kid?
Well, you got to really trust your evaluation on guys, and then fortunately, a guy like a Rashad Torrance came to camp. You get to see what he does in person. But one of the things we always sit in that room is trust our evaluation. I'm nothing against everybody else's, I don't trust the Steve McLean Hot 150. Not that I don't like Steve, and I know he's been around football a long time, but this Steve's got his right. Steve's got the 2021 Hot 150 reveal coming shortly, so we got to go wrap it up. He's got his podcast for the. Honestly, it's about trusting your own evaluation, and you just trust what you see. You meet guys, you try to find out, you gather as much information, and like all these guys. I mean, I'm really excited about all these guys, but I don't always just see the 17-year-old or 18-year-old. I'm also looking at what the 21-year-old's going to be like, and how we're going to develop, how they're going to develop. And if you trust your evaluation, we've had a lot of success doing that.
This guy Rogers from Texas, how would you characterize his game?
Well, it's really he's really interesting. I mean, he was high school quarterback up until this year. Really athletic playmaker with the ball in his hand on offense. Played defense this year for the first time. Had a lot of success, and you saw him continue to grow and get better at doing that. And he's really just a phenomenal athlete and all-around athlete, plus a high-character guy. So, really, you get excited about guys like that. I've had a lot of success with guys that are just great athletes. That do everything for their team. I love guys who do everything for their team. That means the coaches trust them, the teammates trust them. They're great football players, and they usually end up having a lot of success in college.
So you mentioned all these top 10s, top 10 university, your top 10 recruiting class, and you don't seem.
Are we the only top 10 one of that too?
Well, probably.
I don't know.
Possibly.
I haven't looked at the recruiting ranking.
Possibly.
So, are there any other top 10 academic schools in the top 10 of recruiting?
Matt's looking right now.
Is Notre Dame in the top 10 recruiting?
But do you care about being a top 10? Do you think that's good? I mean, you finished top 10 in recruiting. You proud of that? I mean, you don't seem to care about the rankings, but do you take something from that?
Let's hope it translates into continuing being top 10 on the field. I'm much more concerned about how we finish on the field. I look. Here's the hard part about that is you look at the rankings, and I think we're ranked at a different category depending on which website you want to go to. Our rankings change, so those are other people's rankings. I mean, so I don't know how they evaluated it or judged it sometimes. I mean, I guess it's great that we're in the top 10. That people think we have a really good recruiting class, and our coach has done a good job. We're really excited about great players coming. It's like being a top 10 football team, right? I think we're 6, 7, and 9, right? Depending on what poll does that sound right? Yep, depending on what poll you want to look at, right? So. You need my Fox News spin. We're 6 in the country right now, right? I mean, right? You can spin it how you want, right? Or my, I don't know. So like if CNN says we're 9 and MSNBC has us at 7 and Fox News is at 6, I'm going with their spin on it. But I think in the recruiting rankings, I think it looked like most of them have us in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really good. I think it's great from our coaches and the work that they did, and it's great that, we have some really people what multiple people think are really great players coming to come play for us.
What is the promise of the new facilities? How much does that help, and did it play a role this year to be able to sell that?
No, I think it'll really help moving forward. I don't know it had much to do with this year's recruiting class, but once guys come on visits and they see that we've broken ground, I think it'll start to have more of a role.